Hello everyone, you're about to listen to a conversation I had with Kshitij. He goes by Kshitij on Instagram. He has a background in astrophysics and he's a science communicator who makes interesting reels and videos about basic scientific concepts and tries to explain complicated scientific concepts in simple language. I'm a huge fan of his work and this conversation was recorded on Thursday. So even if you're listening to this on Saturday, know that this is at least 3 days old. You are listening to a recording. With that out of the way, let us get into it. So, hello and welcome to this first ever recorded podcast, almost first ever. We have had recorded podcasts before with our friend Kshitij, and Kshitij is known as Kshitij on Instagram. You'll find links to his social media handles in the description to this video. And the reason we have him with us today is because we want to discuss some fundamental questions. And those fundamental questions have to do with, they're like first principle sort of things. Kshitij, before we start, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? What is your background?
Okay, so I was actually raised in a tier 4 city. It was a very small town. We even didn't have the access of the railway station. I completed my 12th class there only, and then I went to Jaipur to do my bachelor's in physics. So during that time, I published one of my work in Stanford Linear Accelerator Center. I presented some of my work at IIT Kanpur and worked with one of the professor from TFR. Then I went for my master's in astrophysics and cosmology. There again I continued doing my work in the field of astrophysics and astroparticle physics more specifically. I worked with a scientist from IIT Kanpur and then one very senior professor, retired professor from Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, and that's what it. Then I started doing my job, and right now I have taken some time because I want to learn new things and want to explore other things. So I have taken some time to explore new aspects of my life.
Mm-hmm. I saw you talk on some other podcast where you said that you are choosing to become a science communicator on account of certain things that you cannot get in the academic life.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk a little bit more about that? Like,
Sure.
generally speaking, what brings you into content creation?
Okay. So first of all, content creation was something that I always loved. If you go to my YouTube channel, you will find my first video, which was made 7 years ago when I just passed my 12th class. So and that time I was not even expecting to make a career out of it. And that time it was not even a career back then. So I was thinking that let's do something for fun. I used to watch Neil deGrasse Tyson, Carl Sagan, and all those big figures on TV, and I was always very, very fascinated to make such content. But again, I was never very serious about it. It was just a fun purpose. During my bachelor's also, I used to do that. Then masters hit me, and what I started to see that all of my friends who are in PhD or either in postdoc or maybe have completed their postdoc, all of them are facing certain challenges. First, obviously, the financial challenge. The pay in academia during starting years is not at all well. There is one guy, Daniel, on Instagram. He's continuously making posts that he's currently a lecturer at UCLA, and he's getting such a low pay that he's struggling to live a life at California. And there are so many people, so many colleagues says that they are getting so much trouble with the monetary purposes. Then there comes the uncertainty part in a way that you first have to do your bachelor's, master's, then PhD. In India, if you do PhD in physics specifically, it will take you on an average 4 to 6 years. 4 to very special case. Generally, it is above 5 years only. After that, even that, then also you're not considered to be a very good scientist if you don't do 1 or 2 postdoc from outside of the India, or maybe from India only. During that time, it's not very likely that you will get postdoc immediately after your PhD only. Maybe you have to spend 1 year just writing the application, just improving your profile, and then applying for a postdoc. After 2 years, you again start writing a postdoc, and this process goes on and on. Sabina Hossain-Fender, excellent physicist and science communicator.
I subscribe to her on YouTube.
Yeah, she has made a very detailed video about this.
Okay.
So these are the problems with academia. I was a bit selfish about it. I want to explore things. I want to do research, but I was not ready to have this much trouble. So I thought maybe...
no, there's nothing selfish about it. There's nothing selfish about it. I think you're doing a good job. I mean, the one good thing about your content I like is that you actually care about whether your subscribers and followers understand you. which is something I can't say for everyone, because a lot of people are just obsessed with using jargon and big words, and they only want to be seen as intelligent. But it is rare to find, not rare, but it is relatively rare to find a content creator who is more interested in whether his message is getting through to people than just self-aggrandizement. So that is something that really draws me to your content, and I really appreciate the work you do.
Thanks a lot.
So when I got in touch with you, we had talked about, basically I had told you I had only two questions. One is what is science and what is math. So let us start with math because it is my nightmare. Has always been my nightmare. मेरा actually math के साथ रिश्ता ये था कि मेरा math बहुत बुरा होता था. And when I became an adult, like after I got my job etc, I wondered कि शायद ये इसलिए हो रहा था क्योंकि मेरे टीचर अच्छे नहीं थे. मतलब मैं जीनियस हूँ, मेरे टीचर मूर्ख थे, उनको पढ़ाना नहीं आता था. So I started to teach myself math one more time. And I realized it was not my teachers, it was me only. I didn't get it that time also. So we keep running into conversations about, like, because you are an atheist, we talk about atheism, we talk about religion and God a lot. One domain where people keep saying that God can be found is in the idea of the abstract. And math is abstract to a great degree. And people say that numbers exist, mathematics exists, it is real, it works, so why can't God exist? So before we get into the nitty-gritty of things, do you want to give a short answer to this one? Like, what is wrong with the argument that if numbers work, if equations work, if mathematics works, and they can be said to exist independently, why can't something similar be said about God?
So first of all, regarding the mathematics, it is not absolutely acceptable in the academia that math itself is absolute in nature. That means that it is not something which are created by us. That's why there is a big argument, there is a big debate that whether maths is invented or discovered. So there is one point of view which is Platonic point of view. It was initially raised by Plato. Plato always thought that these mathematical objects and these geometrical structures are something which are really, and they will exist independent of our existence. So first of all, there is this physical reality, and above that there is one more reality which is a mathematical reality. And his argument was that with the help of our soul and with the help of our mathematical reasoning, we are able to derive some of the truth from it, and for some magical reason it is working so well. So he was pretty sure that math is the absolute thing, and now this thing is known as a Platonic approach. That means you consider that math is something that will be there in the universe, doesn't matter you exist or not. Second approach, actually there are many school of thoughts, but I'm going to talk about two only, which are opposition in nature. So second is mathematical fictionalism. So mathematical fictionalism says that mathematics is like a fiction, just like we talk about fairy tale, just like we talk about unicorn and all those things. The only difference is that these abstract quantities, they are the reflection of our mental construction, and for some reason they are working very well. So they are agnostic in this way that we are not claiming that it is something which is absolutely true, which is embedded in nature. Most of my friends who are working in physics or mathematics, they are they feel like that mathematics does exist in nature. They have this Platonic view because it seems very well like mathematics has to exist because it feels very true. It works so well. So why not? Yeah, why not? It doesn't have to be true. But again, this is making us assume that something which is working for us has to be true universally. So it is assuming the universality of our approach towards the math.
So to get back to my question, since these are, like, I think there are like 4 theories. Mathematical fictionalism is one of them. Mathematics being true regardless of whether the universe exists or not is another theory. I think there are a couple of more. But what is your usual response to someone when they say that if we ignore the fictionalism part, if we just look at the theory that math would exist even if the universe did not exist, do you think that is a good reason to think that God may also exist?
All right. So I'm getting the point. Many of the people who come up with different kind of arguments, logical arguments to prove the existence of God. One very famous one is ontological argument and different kinds of argument. So first of all, each and every argument that is being present for the favor of God, there is always the opposition of it. There is always another logical argument that is going against of it. So I will not consider any of those arguments seriously because first I'm not aware about all of those arguments, and second, even there are the logical arguments. So there exist logical argument for the case of misogyny, and there are certain things which we find very immoral in nature, but there are logical argument for that. So that somehow takes the credibility that if something is logically sound, it doesn't have to be true all the time. And even if I keep aside that point also, one thing that people always say that you cannot disprove that there is no God, which is absolutely right. I cannot prove that there is God. I cannot disprove that there is no God. So in that way, I should be agnostic. But the problem is, then I have to be agnostic to infinite number of absurd statements. So let's say if I say that there is one more Vimoh on the planet Jupiter with 4 hands and 4 legs. So let's say we don't have such technology that we go to the Jupiter, or let's say not Jupiter, any other part of the universe that we can.
Another universe, in fact, another universe.
Another
Jupiter to जा सकते हो, हाँ.
Right. Something that is we cannot do right now. Right. So I'm open to infinite number of absurd statement now, and obviously I'm not able to disprove all of them because I cannot take the observation. So if someone says that you should not be atheist because you cannot disprove God, by definition that might make me an agnostic in that nature. But deep inside I'm not taking that statement very seriously, right? Because it's like saying I cannot disprove that a Vimoh exists in another universe, but deep inside I know that this is a very absurd statement. Although there is some probability, but I don't think it's a very reliable statement.
Yeah. My biggest problem with these philosophical arguments is that they have literally nothing to do with the real world. Like even religious people, if you give them this philosophical definition of God, they will be like, hey, what? To me, God is a compassionate being. So the problem with philosophical arguments for gods is that they are thought experiments that exist inside a very specific set of assumptions. Like the ontological argument you spoke of, or the contingency argument you spoke of. You didn't speak of. These arguments they kind of start with an assumption, and if you assume that assumption is to be taken seriously, then you can come to the conclusion that that argument comes to will be true. But we don't even have any reason to think that assumption is true. And whenever I ask for data, like for example the contingency one, where people say that everything in this universe is contingent upon something else, my first question is, how do you know that? How do you know that everything is contingent upon something else? So you spoke of mathematical fictionalism. Mathematical fictionalism is when, like the theory that the idea that math is basically made up. It is something that we came up with. So my question is, why does it work then? Do people who subscribe to mathematical fictionalism have any response to the fact that it does work?
Okay. Before coming to that, I would first like to address one of my opinion on the way philosophers are dealing with this idea and the notion of God.
Okay.
I believe that there are certain things that we always assume to be true. For example, the existence of logic, right? If I say that P is greater than Q and Q is greater than R, then automatically I can make a statement that P is greater than R, right? This is a very logical statement, right? Yeah. If I say that if P does not exist and Q does not exist, if I say that P and Q cannot exist at the same time, if I am taking a statement, then I can draw some logical arguments from that. So the problem is that, first of all, these logical arguments are very good in nature, and most of the analytical philosophers are working on the logical argument. So on first glance, it might seem that what they are talking about is not real in nature because they are lost in abstract world. But somehow these abstract topics, these logic are the reflection of our idea, our mental image about the world in it. there was one debate is going on of me with one of the person on Instagram, and it's still going on. We are trying to resolve it tomorrow on Google Meet. So the idea is that I'm questioning the whole basis of logic only, and his argument is that logic is a necessary true. That is, there are something known as a priori and post priori.
A priori truths, yes.
Yes, right. So my point is that no knowledge that we have is without experience. My argument is that when we say that logic is necessary truth, then we are assuming universality. We are assuming that a dog will always also see the same logic as we are seeing. We are also assuming that this set of logic that we are producing in our brain are the only way of knowing, or they are not going to be wrong in any case. There are many other arguments in against of it. Again, what I'm saying, there are many arguments in against and in favor of it. So I'm not saying I'm right here or I'm wrong here. What I'm saying is that in philosophical aspects, there are always debate on various topics. There are always logical arguments, and we are somewhat bound by this cognitive mind to approach towards things which might not have any true essence of reality. Might. I said might. I don't know for sure about it. So I just wanted to present my view on that I don't consider the philosophical arguments to be absurd or to be something that does not work on reality. But I feel like that being an empiricist, and not all empiricists, but I feel like that is something at the end of the day which is based on some assumption only, as you said. We are assuming something. Now, considering the fictionalist part, mathematical fictionalist is something that they assume all the things that are given in math. They assume that natural numbers are there. They assume that integers are there. They assume that all these things are there. The only thing that they deny of is that these things does not exist in any hyper world or in hyper reality, as Plato used to say, or today Max Tegmark, professor of MIT, is saying. He has a very famous mathematical universe hypothesis. He truly believes that there exists mathematical reality which transcends time. So people like those truly believe, but again, mathematical fictionalism have some flaws. And you ask that why do we believe that even if it is working so well that it might not exist in real life? Because the only reason we believe that it exists is because we feel like it exists. And the only reason we feel like it exists is because it seems to be very logically feasible. It seems to work very well with our physical theories. Without math, physics is nothing. Mathematics is something that we have to do a lot of time. But a fictionalist says that, yeah, for some reason it is working very well, but we cannot draw the conclusion from it that it is something that exists independent of our existence.
Don't you think, let me just push back a little bit. If you say that we think that math exists because we feel like it exists, don't you think it can also be like the answer that I often give to people is that we think math exists because when we apply math to reality, it gives us consistent results.
Yes.
So that is, do you have a problem with that response?
I mean, the reason if I go to in the favor of Platonic view is this reason only: the unreasonable success of math, the way math is working so well.
That is what I was asking when I talked about fictionalism.
So yeah, part of me is always thinking. So I don't have any stand as of now. I'm not a mathematical fictionalist or I'm not a Platonist. I'm still exploring. So sometimes I feel like that math does exist. There are certain series that are existing in nature. Very, I would say magically they are existing. There are certain series. There are certain mathematical theorems that we can see everywhere in the nature. Humans are somewhat working in the way mathematics is working. Veritasium, I think, have made a video how math is violating democracy and all those things. So the idea is that. I haven't seen that one. I haven't seen either that too, but I'll see that for sure.
Okay.
So anyway, my point is that sometimes I feel like that math should exist in the nature, but then I think like that the only reason I'm saying it should exist because I'm bound to say that statement because of my experience, because of the success of the math. But again, I'm bound by this brain, teeny tiny brain.
Yeah.
And it works in a certain way.
My view on math has always been that there's a we spoke of two views of math, the fictionalism part and the one where math is eternally true, regardless of whether the universe exists or not. My view, but the one that I find most easy to believe, is that math is the result of us observing the universe and writing down how it works. That's the most commonsensical thing that seems to be true. So I don't know what it is called exactly, but we looked at the universe and we saw that the universe is in a certain way, and we wrote down how it works, and it turns out that uh, the rules that we wrote down work consistently because that is what the universe seems to us to be. So it is a result of us looking at the universe. So it's a result of our consciousness, our intelligence, as well as the nature of the universe itself. That's what seems to me to be the case. What do you say about that?
I mean, that's a very we can. I cannot deny that it does not exist. The problem is that when we are talking about such questions, we can take any point, and there will always be logical arguments in our favor, and there will always be
Yeah.
logical argument in opposition
Yeah.
to it. So it is always hard to commit to a certain idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's always hard until unless you yourself is feeling that way. I myself feel in a certain way that it is just our perception of the world, the math. If we see historically how maths was came into the picture, it was initially, I guess, Mesopotamian and Babylonian and Egyptian. These were the people who used to have mathematics as a tool. Then there was certain progress. India was actually India and Islam. They were in a very good relation when it comes to exchanging knowledge. There were so many developments in the field of mathematics. Then comes these Greek philosophers who worked so much in the field of mathematics, and then it becomes such a thing that with the time we started to feel like that there is something more to it. It's not just a tool. It is something that exists, but again we don't have any answer. I cannot
Yeah.
commit to anything.
So I guess the trick is to understand that we don't know much, and that there are multiple interpretations of what we describe as math, and then keep our mind open. Maybe one day we will have an absolute answer, maybe we won't, and I'm personally okay with both possibilities. The only possibility I'm not okay with is one person saying that he has one true final answer and that everyone else is a fool. That's
Right,
the
right.
problem.
I totally disagree with those things. I totally.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
For
Oh, you
me
seem like
something
you seem a very
some
open-minded person. Yes.
yeah, something that I feel like that I can commit to is that no one on this earth can have a certain knowledge of everything, that we have experienced what actually is the truth or something. Maybe maybe it is coming from my ignorance of certain things that exist and I have not experienced those. But anyway, my current knowledge is saying that certain things cannot exist, as you said.
So I wanted to pick your brain about the question of what is science, because every few years we get a question or we get a response from someone who says that science does not know everything, and a lot of people miss the fact that we actually agree that science does not know everything. It is nobody's claim that science is some kind of omniscient discipline which has all the answers. But whenever someone asks me what is science, my response is science is a method. Science is a method, and the word science is also used for the body of knowledge that has been gathered using that method. So when someone asks you what is science, what do you say?
I always say that it's a very systematic study of the nature by which we make some hypotheses which are testable in nature, and we try to predict things which might happen in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, are there holes in the scientific method? Are there things that have traditionally been thought of as, this is something that is a fault in our scientific method in the way we understand the universe? Because this is often pointed out also. And, first of all, let's talk about the fault in the method, and then we will get to the human error part.
Sure. Obviously, there are many flaws in scientific method. I'll just say two of them. First one is the most famous one, the problem of scientific induction. We also call it as inductivism. So, in a very simple way, it's like I say that only gray pigeons exist, because the place where I'm living, I can only see gray pigeons, right? I see everywhere in my locality, maybe in my state, I see everywhere that gray pigeon exists. So from that, from the single statement, I come to the general statement that all the pigeons that exist are gray. The problem is that I have not seen all the pigeons in the world. So because of that, if I'm making such general statement, it's not a very valid thing to do. But it's an important thing to do, because let's then talk about gravity now. Every one of us knows that gravity is attractive in nature. For a very specific case, I will not talk about that. That comes in the realm of cosmology. But in general, we know that gravity is attractive in nature. Why do we know that? Because we experience it. We can see it in our solar system, in our Milky Way, and in the overall observable universe. So we come to the conclusion that gravity is attractive in nature, and it's a very inductive approach to come to the conclusion that gravity is attractive in nature. But the thing is that our observation is restricted to the observable universe only. There might exist a universe or a part of the universe where gravity might be repulsive in nature, or it is not attractive in nature. Although that might not be a very logical argument, and what I'm saying is a reliable knowledge, but I can never say for sure that it is 100% accurate knowledge. So science is always trying to give you the more reliable knowledge, as you also have said in one of your reel. I saw that. So science is a way by which we try to get the reliable knowledge, right? Because it is our best guess.
Best guess, exactly. Yeah. In fact, there's a movie. I'm forgetting the name, but a bunch of people went to Mars, and one of the characters says to the other characters, "Best guess." That's all science is.
Absolutely. So this was the one problem with so scientific inductivism is a one method, and there are overall 6 problems with it. I will not address all of them. This was the most basic one. Then there comes the solution of this problem, is that maybe rather than making a general statement, what we do is first we make a theory, first we make a model, and then we take the empirical evidence. Empirical evidence like taking observation or doing experiment or so and so things. And by that we validate our model. And this seems very true, right? If I create a model how the sun was made or how the sun will die, let's say I'm talking about supernova. So I've theoretically made the model, mathematically it's working very well. The only thing I need to do is that I have to take certain data which verifies my theory. And it turns out that supernova is true. But again, the problem is that, and I think the reel that you sent was something around that only, that no.
I was giving I was giving a kind of common sense version of science. Like, we don't have to think of science as absolute, but we should have no problem in accepting that of all the methods we have tried, this one works best.
Yes.
That's
to understand the physical universe.
Yeah.
To understand the physical and observable universe, science is the best guess we have.
Yeah.
Right. I was talking about deductivism. So the problem that might arise is that the evidence that I am making is not theory free, or the things that I'm using might not be theory free. Let's say I have devised a model about the star, but it is again not a theory free model, because now I'm considering what is a star, what is the chemical composition of a star. There are certain things that I'm assuming to be true. So in a very elementary level, I'm not able to deduce anything from the core. So that is another problem with the deductivism. There are certain solutions to it, but at the end of the day, there are some problems, but it is our best guess.
Okay, yeah. So let us come to the part, like, I wonder if you have seen a video. I'll send you the link separately. It's by a YouTuber called Fatima. She is a former astrophysicist. And she had this video, jiska title tha, I wonder if you have seen it. It's called "Gravity is a Social Construct and That's Okay." So she was kind of sort of talking about the 3-body problem, whereby we see something happening in nature, we come up with a possible explanation that is a gap filler, right? But the nature of that filler is also dependent on what we had previously understood. So famously, we imagined an extra planet in order to explain the weird orbit of one planet in the solar system. Which one was it?
Planet 9, I guess. Planet X or Planet 9, something.
Something like that, yeah. So she was talking about how, we have always sort of thought up explanations for nature. But for some reason, the kind of reverence we show towards science today, science is one human, like the scientific explanation, the models that we create are one human response to a mystery. But we have started thinking of this one human response as more important than all the other responses, which is kind of sort of makes sense. But I would recommend that if you have not seen that video, watch it, and then we can talk about it some more. I What I wanted to talk about next was, do you think that academic biases, for example, the lack of people from our background in academic sciences in the West, do you think that affects scientific outcomes to some degree at least? Or are you of the view that it is all extremely unbiased?
No, I'm totally not in the favor that it is unbiased.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that it is biased. I was saying that I totally feel like that there are a lot of biasness. In fact, from many like studies, it has been proven that there are many kind of biases. It might be like unconscious bias or any other kind of biasness. So one particular bias is towards the researcher from Indian and Chinese origin. That is a lot, especially in the European and American region. Many of my friends who are doing research there, they always say that their supervisors always says that don't trust easily the papers which are coming from India or maybe from China. For some reason, they are, and part of the reason is us only, because many of the Indian researchers produce such a synthetic paper with no reliable sources and no reliable conclusion that they have started to treat us in certain way,
Yeah.
which obviously is not right, because there are so many genius people all around us. We have so large population that for everything there will be so many people. For the good work there will be many people, for the bad work there will be many people.
Yeah.
So I do agree that there are some biases, especially towards Indian and Chinese researchers.
So, how do you think these biases affect the outcome? Do you think there are some things, some roads we could have gone down, but we never got to because these biases prevented us from going down those roads?
I can give you example where it has slowed us down, because I cannot recall any example where something that might have come has never come. So two of the example are, first of the Chandrasekhar. I recently made a video about him. So basically, Chandrasekhar was from Indian origin, and Sir Arthur Eddington, he was a very known astrophysicist. He was always in the against of Chandrasekhar. People say because he was from Indian origin, and they say that because of that, his Nobel Prize was delayed around 20 years or more, because he gave the Chandrasekhar limit at the age of 19, and he got the Nobel Prize at the age of 75. I consider that there is a long process in which you go and take the observation. There are a lot of peer review and all those things. But again, 19 to 75 is again a very big difference. This is one of the case. Then there is one case that I will not say that there is certain kind of bias, but I would say that people are not taking it seriously in a way. So one of my supervisor, he has given this model of naked singularity. It says that in natural cases, black hole should not exist, and there is certain case a naked singularity should exist. And he has very valid reason for that. And many people from outside of India have also. So this is a bias which is not ethnic in nature. It is not something that is being done on people from a very specific background or something, but this is for a certain class of ideas I'm talking about. So naked singularity is something that many people do not take very seriously. I have studied both the model of black hole and naked singularity. I always find naked singularity model, collapse model, to be more reliable in nature, to be more accurate description of the real scenario that we think of that is happening in the stars. In that way, I feel like that naked singularity has some more advantages. But the problem is that black hole scenario has been taken in such a way that it is now people have started to take the idea of black hole very religiously. And
Yeah.
it is because of that reason the more progress and then more scientific work is being done, taking the black hole as the base. Now, just imagine someday someone proves that black hole does not exist. Then all this work that has been done, it suddenly collapsed. It shattered, right? So such kind of biases also do exist. So there are subconscious bias, there are ethnic bias, there's biases towards some certain ideas that has been happening a lot of times.
So, could you explain what a naked singularity means?
Oh yes, I should have done that earlier only.
No,
Yeah.
that's okay.
So,
I didn't want to
so
interrupt you, but I sort of understand it. But I wanted to, since you are here, I'll just ask.
yeah, sure. So first of all, I would define a black hole in very simple term. Black hole is a kind of dead star, and we assume that its mass is compressed into a one very single region, point region. We call it as singularity. because it's a single point, hence the word singularity. And because the gravity is so strong, because there is a region around it from which nothing can escape, not even the light. We call it as event horizon. Now, naked singularity is nothing. It means singularity which is not covered with the event horizon. That means naked in nature. That's why we call it as naked singularity. There are some other ways to call it as, we can call it as quantum stars and other things. There are some technical aspects, but more or less in singularity without the event horizon.
Okay. So a naked singularity would be the conception that at the core of the black hole is a single point of very condensed matter?
Whether we should call it as condensed or not, it's a very highly debatable topic.
Okay.
The nature of that singularity is very unknown. There are some certain very big scientists who even claim that singularity does not exist. One of the very great astrophysicist, Abhas Mitra. Abhas Mitra is very famous. He's, I think, the most Googled Indian physicist who is alive today. And he has given an alternate theory that even singularity does not exist. He talks about quasi-black hole and all those things. So again, no idea in science is without challenge. Each and every idea is with challenge. So again, as I was talking about philosophy, same in science, we cannot say for sure that this does exist.
Yeah.
For sure.
No, the only reason I asked is because I remember early on when we talked about the Big Bang, what was there before time and space began, people used to say that everything was condensed into a single point. But now people kind of say that it wasn't a single point, it was something closer to the size of a marble. So I was wondering if there is a difference there. Is that what you were talking about?
Oh no, I think that's a different case. The reason I was not taking a strong stance about the case of singularity is because even I'm not very sure. It's a mathematical construct. So we were talking about, right, how mathematics works so well in the nature. But here comes the thing. Mathematics also suggests the existence of singularity, and from our physical senses, it should not exist in some way. And I sometimes feel like that. At what level should we trust mathematics? Should we trust mathematics entirely? So here comes my fictionalist approach, that what if the result that is mathematics is giving at this point of time is not true at all, and it is our religious approach towards the mathematics which is making us believe that since mathematics is suggesting the singularity, then there should exist a singularity? Should we consider that, or we should reconsider our approach toward mathematics? Maybe derive a different method from mathematics, or maybe derive a very different method that might not be known to us today.
That
but
is
again,
mind-blowing.
We can definitely do that. In fact, science is not very old. If we
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about science, it's very recent. Philosophy is, I guess, 2.5 thousand years old. 2,500 saal purana, and science is very, very new.
Very recent. A very new
Right.
branch of philosophy, in fact.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a chance for that.
So there is this person who frequently gets put in the same club with other conspiracy theorists. I wonder if you've heard his name. His name is Rupert Sheldrake.
No, I don't know.
So he came up with a lot of kooky theories. One was that dogs are telepathic, and he got laughed out because of that. But another one that he came up with back in the day was that nature has invisible forms. And the reason matter takes those forms is because matter falls into those forms. They're basically like, they're basically non-physical containers. And every form in nature, it's kind of sort of a derivative from Platonic idealism. But he said that in nature, there exist non-physical entities, which are like these socks. And matter falls into them and it takes the shapes that it does. And of course, one of the people, he wrote a book called Morphic Resonance. And I was unfortunate enough to read it back in the day, before I became an atheist. And I was quite taken by this idea. And I also remember that Richard Dawkins had this show, remember, where he used to go and question people? Like he had this one with Deepak Chopra and stuff. He went to Rupert Sheldrake also. And they didn't obviously agree with each other. They were totally opposed to each other. The one thing they did agree with each other on was that Richard Dawkins was like, I'm not entirely opposed to the idea that what we think of as the laws of the universe may not be eternally true. Maybe they were a different way in the beginning, and maybe they have kind of changed since then till now, and maybe they're still in the process of changing. And he said this because he's a huge fan of evolution. right? So he's like, maybe the universe also evolved. And Sheldrake was like, yeah, that's what I am saying. But then they got fighting and it was kind of lost. And I found it quite fascinating that you are kind of sort of uh, uh, pointing at that in a way, I suppose.
So I think like there are certain times that we can agree to same logical point and come to a different conclusion. So there is one point that since cause and effect, if we assume that cause and effects hold true everywhere in the universe, it is the ultimate reality of the universe.
Yes.
Then the question comes that what caused the Big Bang? If Big Bang is true, what caused the Big Bang? One can come to the conclusion that it was God who created the universe. But maybe a physicist comes to the conclusion that there must be a field X or maybe a particle X which caused the Big Bang, right? We don't know what caused the Big Bang. We have some theories for that, but we don't know for sure that what caused the Big Bang. So yeah, like there are certain things people try to come up with the argument for the God, and I think those things can be taken from a different way. Obviously I'm very ignorant right now to those points which I'm not aware of, which might contradict what I'm saying, and I'm totally open to that idea that such kind of statement does exist, but as of now it does not exist in my knowledge.
Hmm. The problem with putting God in there anywhere is that I try to go with what most people understand to be the thing. And the best that philosophical arguments can do is that they can get to some primary cause. But the idea of God is not just a primary cause, it is also a being with intelligence, compassion, the ability to answer prayers and everything. And there is no way you can get to that using philosophy. So that is what I had said earlier, where these philosophical arguments don't have much to do with reality, because in reality, people's conception of God is very different. Uh, so that was kind of sort of what I wanted to talk to you about. If you have a little bit more time, because we're at the 42-minute mark, I will ask you a couple of more questions that are not about this topic.
Sure, sure. Before that, I just want to say an ending statement that while we are talking about that this should exist or this should not exist, I was reading a paper with one of my philosopher friend, and it was a very beautiful paper that everything that we claims to be true or false always depends on our context. There can be a context where God does exist. There can be a context where electron does not exist. So each and every of our statement is heavily dependent on the context.
Yeah.
So that also answers the definition of God part, how you are defining God and all those things.
Yeah. In fact, I really wish more people would acquaint themselves with the anthropic principle, because so many things we wonder about, and the very fundamental thing that we completely forget is us, our perspective, that we are the ones who are doing all of this. And so we come to so many conclusions which are erroneous because we think these are absolute truths about the universe, and we take ourselves out of the equation. But if you include ourselves in the equation, if you come to the conclusion that, okay, this is just one way of looking at reality, then a lot of it kind of resolves itself into nothingness.
Right.
So tell me something that you are enjoying very much right now. It can be a book, a movie, or a project that you're working on.
Oh, right. So right now I'm reading this book by Roger Penrose, Shadows of the Mind. He's his approach towards what actually consciousness is. That's a very mathematically heavy book, but wonderful book. That is something that I'm enjoying a lot. The project, I would say that these days, again, I have started to take things from a different perspective. Initially, my whole approach was very empirically evidence based approach, but now I have started to question each and everything, maybe because it is the reflection of the philosophers around me. I don't know, but again, I have started to take things very, very seriously now. I question everything. What is the existence of logic? Do we even think that logic has to exist? That's why I was even working on mathematical fictionalism. I would not say working. I'm in the reading part, but later at some point I want to do something new out of it, which is somewhat related to physics only, but with this fictionalist approach.
So my mind will be really blown if mathematical fictionalism comes to be the dominant describer of what math is, because it will take care of a whole lot of bullshit that comes our way in the name of arguments for God.
I don't think that would happen, because in that case also there out of mathematical fictionalism also there will be people are clever enough that they will come up with the argument to create the argument for
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, but
I think we can never escape that outcome.
yeah, it'll be like, yeah, sure, mathematics is fiction, but who created the fiction? It'll go down that lane. So, since you are also someone who's doing YouTube as well as Instagram, what do you find more fulfilling? Because अभी हमारे जो सर्कल्स हैं कंटेंट क्रिएटर सर्कल्स में हम लोग बहुत बातें कर रहे हैं आजकल शॉर्ट फॉर्म कंटेंट की लिमिटेशंस के बारे में एंड हाउ लॉन्ग फॉर्म कंटेंट माइट बी अ बेटर way for us to do things because you have more time to get into the nitty gritty of things. So because you are a content creator who does care about your followers understanding you, which seems to be a very basic thing, do you find that short form content is working according to your expectations, or do you think it is limiting you?
Problem with the short form content is that you can always give a very superficial level of knowledge. I can never back up my claims with certain references that I want to. I always have to ensure that what I'm saying is very exciting yet credible at the same time. I always have to ensure that, and not I, everyone, every educational content creator who is making, they always have to ensure that whatever knowledge they are delivering, it is precise, it is in the most entertaining way possible. So there are certain content creators who are these just dancing and narrating science stories, and even I'm experimenting a lot of things, drama and all, and this is something which is good. It is forcing us to come up with a pitch elevator for the science, but I don't think it is a very good way to go. At the end of the day, I also believe that long form content are the best, because short form content can only give you introduction. It is good for someone who is totally ignorant about something, right? Let's say there is someone who don't know what is quantum mechanics. There exists a Vikas in a certain village, and randomly Vikas saw a reel regarding quantum mechanics. So he would say, okay, it's just a 1 minute long video, let's see it. He will see, oh, this thing happened in quantum mechanics. And because in the nature of reels that we can only give something which is very introductory in nature, he will say, oh, this seems interesting. And then maybe he can go to the YouTube and search what is quantum mechanics, and he can find a, let's say, 30 minutes detailed video or an hour lecture on that. So in that way, short form content is bad. Otherwise, long form content is the holy grail.
So are you planning to put out more long form content? Because the only long form content I've seen on your channel is that roast/reaction video.
Yes. I'm coming up with a lot of content on my Instagram. I'm coming with various topics related to, again, astrophysics and quantum mechanics, because that is my niche and I don't want to go very far away from my niche. So more or less science, and in that also astrophysics and quantum mechanics and cosmology.
On your
I have
YouTube?
worked on my YouTube. The reason I left my job is so that I can focus on YouTube, because Instagram, okay, I was able to do Instagram with my job, but for YouTube I need separate time, because script writing takes a lot of time, more than editing, more than video making. Script writing takes a lot.
Instagram is not rewarding at all. Like I have like close to 3 lakh followers on Instagram, and I will tell you right now, it is not worth it. It takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of mental health. It seeps out of you, but it won't give you anything in return. Instagram पे वो जो monetization का एक है, या तो brand deals है, or you can have subscribers. It doesn't add up to much. YouTube is much better if you want to create a sustained career as a content creator, and people like you should definitely be content creators, because you do have something of value to add. Because you, first, as I said, you do care whether people understand you or not.
No, I was just saying कि मेरा यही plan है अब कि I'll start to make long form content for educational purpose, rather than ये तो science entertainment है. This is something that I also enjoy. All the creators that come, because they also enjoy this, कि हफ्ते में एक दिन होता है, सब आते हैं, हंसी मजाक करते हैं, बकैती करते हैं. So that is something that we enjoy.
Okay. So since you also create content in addition to science education about atheism, do you find, what kind of backlash do you get from people? Like, who are the most angry people who message you?
So here I will clear my stance about atheism. So in atheism also, you might be aware that there are different definition of atheism. So I would always keep myself on the definition of pseudo-atheist. Pseudo-atheist means atheist who cannot disprove the existence of God, but deep inside he feels like that God should not exist. So deep inside I feel like that.
Should not exist or cannot exist?
See, if I say cannot exist, there will be a lot of logical arguments that will come, and I cannot say cannot, because if I'm
just trying to understand what you mean by should not exist.
should not, like, for my the way I perceive the world, it should not exist.
Okay, okay.
At the end of the day, we all are perceiving world from our own reality.
Okay, you mean as per my worldview, there is no possibility.
Yes, yes.
Sorry, no possibility. Again, becomes complicated. As per my worldview, it seems practically impossible for you that God does exist.
Yeah. Again, impossible. There's
Practically,
I have
that's
to
why I said practically. That's why it's a practically
practically,
impossible.
practically, yeah. But again, like, to be safe, I cannot say that God do not exist for sure, because I
Yeah.
cannot.
Yeah,
prove
even
that.
I don't. Even I don't. And even that creates problems with people. I say that I do not claim that God does not exist, and people say, then you're not an atheist. And I say, like, yeah, plenty of people are atheists here. They believe that, they say that I lack belief in God, and that is sufficient to make you an atheist. There is sufficient literature on this. So that is it, Kshitij. I think we are at the 50-minute mark. It was a pleasure having you with us, and I'm glad we did this. I hope that we soon have an opportunity once more to talk to you. People, Kshitij's YouTube channel is linked in the description. His Instagram handle is also linked in the description. If you like easy to access science content, please subscribe to him on YouTube, follow him on Instagram. And if at some future point of time Kshitij starts a podcast or something, I hope he will let us know, and we will ask people to subscribe to him on Spotify also.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kshitij. Bye-bye.
Thank you for inviting. Bye.
That was our conversation. I hope you liked it. Also, let me know what you thought of this new format where we just do deep dive conversations with a single person about a single topic. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.